How do you take a gable wall and make it look professional? Well, we're going to show you how to do that today. We're installing vertical cypress wood siding on this building because it's super decay and bug resistant. Yeah, buddy. What's up, everybody? Logan Parker
and Mike Heindel
with Heirloom Builders, and we're going to talk a little bit today about how to take a wood siding installation from amateur to pro. We're combining that old aesthetic of like a wood-clad barn,
right,
with the wood siding, and combining that with a modern aesthetic of clean lines and no battens. And the way that we're achieving that is with a vertical shiplap, so that you get the vertical boards, and the shiplap creates an overlap between the boards so that we don't need to cover it with a wood batten, which kind of creates a whole bunch of unnecessary shadow lines and is actually probably less waterproof than this vertical shiplap that actually creates an overlap. We're not relying on caulk. We've got a giant opening beneath those two windows for a barn door. We're going to put a horizontal band board, some people call it a belly band, to both hang the barn door off of and create a horizontal transition between the first course of siding down below that's 10 feet tall and the siding above it that goes all the way up to the bottom of that gable roof frame. Now, there's a few things that are going to make this go from an amateur installation to a professional looking installation. The first thing is layout. Layout is key. We've got a 10 by 10 post that supports the ridge above in between those two windows, and our siding boards are only 9 inches wide. So what we don't want to happen is to have two little slivers that are really difficult to nail or impossible to nail and really difficult to waterproof on each edge of the window. So what we're going to do is center the groove in between those two windows so that we have a large portion of each board to cut out around the windows. Not only is that going to make it look really good having a groove run all the way up the center, but it's going to create a more waterproof, flashable installation that's going to make it super pro and last a really long time. We're focused basically on trying to get the grooves of the siding to land where they look right. And so what are we focused on there?
So to take this from amateur to professional level, it's the details are important. So two things we want to do is we're going to have one of our vertical siding grooves land right between those two windows. So we have with our siding, we have a 9-inch pattern on, and we measured back to where we're going to start and established, it's basically 9-inch pattern where we need to start our first board. So we've done that. And then the second thing is we're going to go ahead and side the top. And when we do the bottom, we want to maintain those grooves all the way vertical. So we will check that every couple boards as we're nailing off our bottom vertical siding, and cheat our boards a little bit if we need to adjust that. We also have a few wider and narrow boards to add in if we need to adjust it that way also.
So you're starting with the top, siding the top.
Yep, we'll side the top. And
favoring that line right between the windows.
Shooting for that line right in the center. And then just after that, all we have to do is worry about is getting the vertical lines to line up right through here. Oh man, I can just see my arm. I can't see anything else. I see my...
Yeah, it's like when you're pointing at it, it's like, you try to do this on the camera.
I know.
We are about halfway complete siding this gable end, and I just wanted to kind of show you what it takes and explain what it takes to get this layout like we were talking about, where the center of that board lands right in the middle in between those windows so we can keep it waterproof and make it look really good. So as we work from this side over towards the left, we kind of have to check our measurements because Ben was working on the bottom to get the boards underneath the window, and I was working up top. And if our boards are cut different widths slightly, or if they're out of plumb at all, it can really get the layout off. And sometimes we have to tweak them out of plumb, add a gap on top to get it towards plumb, and to make sure that we land evenly spaced on that window and get it lined up perfectly right in the center. So it just takes, the best thing to do is kind of, as you creep up on wherever you're trying to finish, you want to double check your measurements from end to end to make sure that you're where you need to be, and you can adjust if necessary. So just take the time to stop and check your measurements to make sure you've got an even measurement to where you're going to finish, and you'll thank yourself in the end. It's going to make your life a whole lot easier, and it's going to make it look super pro.
That look.
Okay, so when you're doing vertical siding, you want to make sure that you have a nailer at least every 3 feet. And so what we've done is we kind of laid this out. You can use a story pole to figure out exactly your heights up and down on the wall. We used SketchUp to kind of create the elevations for our barn door opening based on the frame, and where all of our backing needs to go, so that not only does it look clean, the nailing pattern look clean on the outside, but when you're looking from the inside of the building, things look symmetrical and balanced. For instance, we know that we need to have some backing to install those windows on the top of the window and on the bottom of the window. And because it's a 7-foot tall window, we're going to go ahead and we're shooting for about a nailer every 3 feet. So we're going to line that 2x8 up right with the center of the window, so that when you're looking from the inside, it looks really balanced. So one of the things that you can see that Ben and Mike are doing right now is nailing the backing for our finished band board. The finished band board is going to look like it's 2 inches thick, but in fact it's just a 1-inch layer. But in fact it's actually 2 different 1-inch layers sandwiched on top of one another. So we've got to make sure that that backing is exactly in the right spot. Before we actually even install our backing, we need to make sure that the siding backing, those girts, are also in the right spot. And we're considering 3 things. As we go up the wall, we need nailing for the top of the first course. We need nailing for this furring and the finished band board to nail into. And then on top of that, we need nailing for our metal Z flashing that's going to go above and create a waterproof transition from the second course of siding up top over the band board and down to the siding beneath. So we're going to put our 1-inch board furring for the first course of that belly band to be 11 inches wide. We're going to build that out to 11 inches wide with some scrap material, and then our finish 1x12 is going to be 1 inch longer than that 11-inch piece and lap 1 inch over top of the first course below it. Stacked like shingles, it's going to shed water and be completely waterproof. One of the challenges of using rough saw material to frame up anything is that they're usually not perfectly flat or straight or the same width or thickness. And what's happening here is that we've got a 16-foot tall 6x6 that we're using to frame in the stair landing that I'm standing on, and it's a little bit bowed out, and the 2x8 nailer, this double 2x8 that is the backing for the top of the siding on the first course, the band board, and the flashing above it, is creating kind of a gap right here, and I can almost fit my finger through it. So if we were to just go ahead with that without beating it in flat or getting the whole siding straight or getting it all flattened out, is go for it.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, we're in.
Sweet.
Yeah, if we didn't take the time to actually do that, then our siding would hump over top of that. We wouldn't have a flat wall. So that's one of the things that's gonna separate this job, amateur to pro. Just so you know, it just takes a few simple steps and you can take your project up another notch and make it look really good and last forever. So for those of you who are wondering, we've got a bunch of flashing on the bottom of this window. And what we've done, because there's going to be so much rain shedding off of that window and dumping onto the siding below, is we've flashed continuous. We've got a couple of different layers, layered like shingles, one on top of the other, from the bottom to the top, all the way up to the bottom of the window, so that any water that sheds down that window hits the flashing and drains down over top of our metal flashing that sits on top of that band board. So everything is shedding water all the way down. So the band board gives it a horizontal break so that we don't have a break between boards and a joint between boards vertically as they go up. If we were going to create a continuous wood siding all the way up, we don't have 22-foot pieces of cypress siding, so we need a break somewhere in between. And instead of having a bevel cut on the vertical board that's going to most likely leak over time, especially as it twists a little bit and opens up, we're going to create a horizontal band board as a break between the first and the second course of siding that's going to look really good and function to keep it waterproof over time. That way we can have a 10-foot piece on the first course down below and 12 to 14-foot pieces on the top that die into the roof frame. And that's about it, y'all. Those are a few of the details that we're paying attention to make sure this installation looks super professional. And that's what's gonna take this from amateur to pro. I hope you got something out of this video. If so, smash that like button and leave any comments down in the section below. As always, y'all, thanks for watching. Until the next one, peace out.